Welcome into Top Shelf here at the Score Studios. I'm with my guys, John Matisz, Levi Smith. I'm Aidan, Thakkar, and it is draft week. The offseason it's started, and it is just like, it was always such chaos, like the first 2 weeks right after the Stanley Cup final. Chaos has obviously already started. Zegras getting dealt, and other moves probably on the way before draft night. Before we get into the chunk of our show today, which is going to be some bold predictions for this offseason. We got some 8 teams, eight bold predictions we're going to go through. I want to talk about the draft really quick. We did a mock draft last week that's up on the channel. But, John, you're usually at the draft. You're not going to be this year because it is decentralized and not every team's there. Do you think that's going to make for a busier draft night or a less busy draft night?
Probably busier night. I think it's less about the decentralization and more about the state of the draft class, where things get real murky after, 6 or 7 picks. And then also just the state of the league. There's so many teams that are wanting to get better, and you can get better by trading those higher end picks. Or it just seems like it's going to be really messy, and in a good way, in an entertaining way. Draft night, and then probably between the draft and free agency, it's going to be another window of activity.
It is a really weird draft. New York just forewent their 12th overall pick to Pittsburgh in favor of keeping their 2026 pick. And New York's probably going to want to be in the playoffs next year, which means they're anticipating a 20-something pick next year being worth just as much or more than the 12th overall pick this year, which is a really big statement. But Pittsburgh now in a really good place with 2 picks, 11 and 12, as they get ready to
so that's 2 teams with back-to-back picks, which is really interesting. You've got Montreal and I want to say 16, 17.
Yep.
So that's also another kind of wrench thrown into the first round. And then there's a team like Nashville that has 3 picks. So
Philly's got 3, I think, as well.
Yeah, it's a very, I would say, unique first round compared to previous drafts.
Yeah, I wonder when we look back on this draft if we're going to be like, oh, yeah, it was actually way better than we thought, or no, they thought it was going to stink and it stunk. So today we're going to go through a bunch of bold predictions that I've put together and just talk through them and just kind of say, is this too bold? Is this actually realistic? And talk through the reality, though, of some of these ideas. And the first one kind of revolves around the draft, and that's because obviously when big names are traded in the summer, it often happens around July 1, around draft day. And one guy his name has been afloat has been J.J. Peterka of the Buffalo Sabres. But they should not trade this guy. There's no reason to trade this guy. They have control of him. He's a 70-point player entering the start of his prime. So I'm going to go say bold prediction that the Sabres end up not trading Peterka. What are you guys' thoughts?
I think for the Sabres' sake, that would make sense. And it's funny when we were talking about him in our previous shows, having predictions being he'll go here and here. And it's that's exactly a guy that the Sabres need. If you're looking at a young player who can produce at the level he's already shown, sounds like a guy that you might want on a rebuilding Sabres team. So I like this prediction. I do still think it's bold. I don't think that there's no merit to that. Obviously he's been shopped for as long as we can, for the last month we've been talking about it. But no, I think that this is a good take.
The funny thing with the Sabres is pretty much every time they seem to trade one of their good players, they're underperforming. Sam Reinhart was underperforming, as was guys like Brandon Montour and Dylan Cousins and stuff like that. Peterka is not underperforming. So on one side, if they were to sell on Peterka, you're probably getting good value on him. He is coming off of I think the statistically highest 5-on-5 on ice shooting percentage of all time. His team shot 15% with him on the ice this year, which is some record, or I don't know. Saw this on Next.
That's high.
Don't take it. That could totally be false, but don't believe everything you read online. But I'm believing whatever I read.
But 15% is high. Is the point. Yeah.
And Peterka is a great player. There should be a little bit of regression there, but so if they are selling him, you're probably getting better value than you did get for a Reinhart or whatever. But at the same time, who are you replacing him with? Are you replacing him with just another young guy, or are you going out and getting a Jason Robertson, which seems like it's not going to happen? So for that reason, I don't think they end up trading him.
Yeah, I would say the only reason they would ever trade him or should trade him is if they feel like they're backed into a corner in terms of this guy wanting out, in terms of maybe the threat of an offer sheet. Although if he gets offer sheeted, maybe you just take the compensation and walk away, because it's probably going to be a pretty good package there. But yeah, Peterka's a pretty unique player in terms of his skill. He's got some power to his game. He's super fast off the rush, assertive, draws penalties, forechecks. He does a lot for you. And it's you look at the Sabres and what they're trying to build. who are the core forwards at this point, right? Like you need guys to staple to your lineup card for the long term. So it's one thing though, like if a player wants out, it's like, you can't hold them hostage, so to speak. I mean, you can because it's an RFA, but like, is it in the best interest of the team long term? I don't know. But they should by no means be going out of their way to trade this guy.
No.
By no means.
100%. At least take him through to arbitration or to get him to a contract that you could potentially flip him on. I think the idea of just trading him just to trade him is a bad call. Next bold prediction I got here is that the Blue Jackets are crowned the biggest offseason winner.
Yeah, so this isn't necessarily a compliment because, as we saw last year, Barry Trotz crowned the off-season wizard, and that did not turn out well for him and the Nashville Predators. We saw Pierre Dorion a few years ago with the Ottawa Senators also being crowned. He's no longer employed by the Ottawa Senators. So this is not necessarily a compliment, but that said, they've got like $40 million in cap space. They have a GM in Don Waddell who got hired last May, so he's got a full year on the job to assess things. Now he can kind of pounce. They saw real big steps made by their core pieces, Fantilli, Johnson. Obviously, Werenski's coming off a Norris Trophy caliber season. And I just feel like they were so close to the playoffs that there's going to be some sort of aggression here, some sort of boldness to their offseason. So...
and they were so close to the playoffs with guys like Marchenko and
Yes.
Monahan missing so much time. Werenski missed time. Like you think like they're probably replicate that level of play from your guys and a piece or two and some better bounces in the health department, and you're in a playoff spot next year.
The Metro's not very good, right?
No.
If we're being honest, it's the worst division in hockey. And if you look at their cap picture right now, they've only 15 guys signed for next year. So like they're going to have to make moves regardless. And I just think with all that cap space, there's at least one big move in there where you start thinking, oh, did they win the offseason?
Yeah.
Well, I was going to say, I think yesterday it came out that they were preparing a nice little offer for Mitch Marner. So, not that maybe that's the pinnacle of the destinations for Mitch Marner to go out and
Johnny Gaudreau went there
He did.
unexpectedly.
Johnny
I
Hockey
suppose
did
it's
go there.
possible.
With all the different locations that are on the table. But, I mean, they're in a good spot team-wise, a way better spot than like an Anaheim or something to bring in a guy like that. So I think that they're set up for some success.
A guy I really wonder for them is Noah Dobson in New York. You don't really know if he's available, but if any team can go give a defenseman $9.5 million a year and kind of just be like, cool, let's just do that.
Yeah.
It's probably Columbus. And if there's any team that could use a stud right defenseman right now, right at the top of the lineup, Columbus, they could insert him in right there. They got to make a decision on Provorov and Fabro. So some interesting decisions on in Ohio, but a lot of fun money to play with and a lot of good signs this past year. The next one here, we were talking about it earlier, that some potential movement at the draft. The one team that there's just been so much talk about them wanting to make a splash, wanting to be crowned the biggest offseason winner, is the Utah Mammoth, not Hockey Club.
You almost had
And
a
I
slip
have
up
them trading the 4th overall pick. Now, I have no idea what they would trade this 4th overall pick for. I would expect it to be a top 6 forward. I think preferably a center they would want, someone probably in their age range too, maybe in that 24 to 27 range, someone who could play for them for a long time. There's not a lot of those guys on the market, but I think they want to make a splash in Utah. They want to make the playoffs next year in Utah, and I think the 4th overall pick it's found money considering they won the lottery, and they could do really good things if they do trade that pick.
Yeah, I mean, I think we've talked about this before, but in terms of the potential suitors, the Islanders are on that list of short names. I know they don't have exactly Noah Dobson, for example, isn't a that center that we were looking at, but that's a team who I think it wouldn't surprise me at all. It's even maybe I'm adding a bolder take onto your bold take. A team up in that top 5 to 7 or 8 range might actually come in and scoop this up because they think that maybe they're buying low on this draft and thinking, okay, if I've got 2 picks in the top 10, let's just say, in a draft that everyone kind of thinks is going to be underwhelming, this could be like actually revolutionary, like turn the whole franchise around if I can get 2 guys to pan out who would be like 2 of the top 10 players that can get drafted. So, yeah, that wouldn't surprise me at all. I'd like to see it, that's for sure.
I think this would be a bad idea because, okay, Utah Mammoth trajectory. I think everyone can agree they're on the up and up. Well, like this is, like you said, found money. When are they going to pick in the top 5 again if they are, in fact, on the up and up? So you can add a really, highly projectable player here at 4th overall, I think you're sort of overthinking it to be like, oh, it's time to move on. It's time to sell all of our draft capital and prospects and really go after it. It's like, no, this is actually a golden chance to backfill your prospect pool, where when you're contending and have no first round picks as you keep trading them, you have this prime prospect coming through. But if they do trade him, or sorry, not him, the 4th overall pick, a future him, I suppose. How about this? I know for a fact that they're really high on Kayshawn Aitchison. I think that through multiple sources, they would love to draft this kid. So I wonder if they're able to trade back to like a more comfortable range for Aitchison. Let's just say 13th, 14th, 15th. And so they trade back to there because they want Aitchison, and they get to do that swap, that pick swap. They get, you know, a young NHLer, let's say, and they're able to kind of get the best of both worlds, where they get this kid, this blue liner, that's super exciting, that can be part of their core in terms of, you know, filling out in the second pair, a physical player, a fan favorite, and then they also, you know, they're kind of working on 2 timelines there, where they get that young NHLer to inject into their lineup for next season, and then presumably this hypothetical team in 13, 14, 15 can move up, and maybe they want to take, you know, Hagens or Frundell or whoever.
Yeah, I could see the Canucks being interested in getting
Sure.
an elite center at the top. I don't think Pettersson would be of interest to Utah. I don't think they'd be ready to just hand him all their salary cap room. But I wonder about Pittsburgh with 11 and 12. Maybe they could build something. They don't exactly have a lot of young forwards, especially ones that they would be wanting to give up. That's exactly what Pittsburgh needs right now. But maybe that's a couple of interesting teams there. Next one I have on this here. This team's been talked about a lot, obviously, because the media loves to talk about the Toronto Maple Leafs. But I have them as their highest paid acquisition comes in at under $6 million. I think Tavares doesn't get $6 million. I think, obviously, Mitch Marner, I think, is walking from Toronto. We know this. But I think there's lots of talk about them going after a big-name free agent, but there's not a lot of big-name free agents. And are you really going to go spend all your Mitch Marner money on Brock Besser or on like Nikolai Ehlers?
Yeah.
I'm not sure. So that's my idea, that they might go in the trade department, but they don't have a lot of assets to go after a guy that's making a crazy amount of money, because those players cost a lot typically. So one guy I could see them going after is William Karlsson in Vegas. He comes in under $6 million. There's a couple other players sort of in that terrain I could see, but I don't think they go big name hunting. I think the Toronto Maple Leafs reserve some of that space for a loaded 2026 free agency class.
I actually think this is fairly bold in terms of, like, if they're not acquiring someone $6 million or more, that means no Marchand, no Besser, no Ehlers, no Bennett, obviously no Marner. Like, you run through the gamut of it, and you go, well, like, what does this team look like when they're trying to contend? It feels like if it's not done through free agency, it's going to be done through trade, where they acquire someone with a big ticket. You know, easier said than done, and I guess we'll see what happens here. But I feel like they're going to bring in at least one person over or $6 million or more. It feels like that to me.
Interesting.
I just think that, like, you're considering who are you considering, like, they could trade for making, and what are they giving up? Because you can't be like, oh, we'll give up Nick Robertson in 2028 first for your team's number one left winger, because no team wants to do something like that, right? And I mean, okay, maybe they could go try to sign Ekblad, but I think Ekblad's just a right-handed version of Morgan Rielly, pretty much, of like a second, like number 2, number 3 defenseman. Obviously plays the right side, but I think considering how, like, unbelievably stacked next year's free agency class is, that to me seems like, if Brad Treliving is
for
smart,
now, a lot of these guys will
100%.
yeah.
But if Brad Treliving is smart, they shouldn't just spend money to spend money. When he was in Calgary, they spent money just to spend money. They're like, oh, we could get a little bit better, and we can sign James Neal to a 5x5 or Troy Brouwer to a 4x4. But they bought out all those guys, right? And Treliving has made those mistakes. I like to think that he's probably learned from some of those mistakes. I think they will go get some players to fill out their top 6. They will need to. You can't just, like, lose Marner and not replace him. But one of my other predictions for this season, it's not an off-season bold prediction, is that the Leafs might find themselves in a wild card spot next year. I think losing Marner, like, might help them in the long run as a playoff team, but as a regular season team, it's hard to replace your number 1 penalty killer, your number 1 power play guy, and a 100-point player. Like, that's you can't replace that with a 60 and a 40-point player. That's not how that really works. But
I mean, I like your line of thinking in terms of what Treliving should do. You know, maybe he enters the season with some cap space and can kind of be a big dog on the trade market in season. I like that idea. I just feel like True Living is gonna not do something stupid. That's the wrong way to put it, but like overpay someone.
Yeah.
It's
He's
a
been
lot
known
of
to do that.
it's a lot of pressure too the biggest market in hockey like Toronto. So to be under the microscope and not pull the trigger on any big name when you lose like one of the best players that the Leafs have had in the last few decades, it's a lot of pressure. That's all I'll say. So
Especially-
I'd respect if he didn't, but I'd
Especially
expect him
because
to.
they don't have the first round picks to like kind of be
Yeah.
like, oh, like we have these guys coming. It's like, oh, no, you have Easton Cowan coming, and that might be it. They just like Topi Niemelä just left and signed in Sweden or something like that too. I have no idea what the future pipeline of the Leafs actually looks like at this point.
Well, and I just feel like the trade market's going to be super interesting. Like we're already seeing it. Marchman got traded, Burakovsky, Zegras, like these sort of whatever mid-tier players. Like maybe there's a guy who makes $7 million that ends up on the Leafs. That's sort of in this pocket where teams are ready to move off of them, and there's finally a market because there's more cap space in the league for these guys that need a change of scenery but aren't, an RFA type of player.
I cannot believe that they didn't get Marchman for what Seattle paid for Mason
Yeah.
Marchman. Like that is just like those are the kind of players I think they will get, those $4.5-5 million players, because I think that I'm not saying they're going to spend no money. I'm just saying that the big tickets out there, like I don't know if they should go give Nikolai Ehlers an $8.5 million deal. I don't. Maybe they
agree.
do, maybe they do, but let's.
We'll have
move-
to circle back on this.
Yes,
Yeah.
let's move on because one position that there is a lack of is goalies in free agency this year. So the lack of UFA goalies leads to 3 goalie trades.
Yeah, I like this one. I think it's fairly bold because goalies don't get traded too often, but the market conditions are set up where we could see a fair amount of goalie trades. So Merzlikins is probably on his way out. John Gibson has been on his way out for the last 3 years, but his cap hit is suddenly looking all right in this new cap world, 6.4, and obviously the term has gone down over the years. You've got a number of other goalies across the league that may be on their way out, and you've got teams, whether it's the Flyers, the Hurricanes, there's Oilers. That's a great one.
Obviously.
That are going to go hunting for a goalie, whether it's a backup or or a starter or somewhere in between. I just think that the UFA class is so bad for goaltending. Jake Allen is your number one guy, and sure, he's fine as a tandem guy, but he's also getting up there in age. So it's like you start looking around if you're a team that needs a goalie, and you go, our option is the trade market. And I just think that with the rising cap, not to beat a dead horse here, but the sort of trade landscape is going to change, and we've already seen it happen. And this might be the summer of goalie trades.
Yeah, I think the interesting one to me, obviously, is John Gibson, because Anaheim's been sort of reluctant to trade John Gibson over the last 10 years, but they're at a point where they have to pay Lucas Dostal this summer, and they're probably going to give him a 7x7 or something like that. And I wouldn't even say that's a bad deal. I think that's a good call, but do you really want a goaltending room that's making close to $14 million? Probably not, even if it is for just a couple of years. So I wonder about John Gibson. I wonder about could he be a fit in Carolina or Columbus, like the teams you said, and could we see maybe some goalie swapping going on? It sounds like the Oilers aren't interested in Gibson, but they probably should be. So the other name I'm curious about the two names is Joel Hofer and Jordan Binnington. That's a tandem where both those guys could seemingly be number ones on a team. Hofer needs a contract, I believe, as well.
Yeah.
But I think he might cost a lot. I think he might cost almost as much as Binnington at this point. So that's not going to be a cheap price. I wonder if like a team, like what's the biggest like package paid for one of those guys though, is because none of all those guys are interesting names, but not exactly like elite number ones in the NHL.
Well, and goalies typically don't yield much in trades anyways. So yeah, I would imagine like, let's say John Gibson. I mean, if he's not getting traded for another goalie, is it like a middle six forward? Is it a second and like a B prospect? Like it's kind of hard to say because he's been on the market so long. It's like clearly like you're gonna have to budge if you're the Ducks and not get much in return.
Well, last year the Flames got a first-round pick in Kevin Ball for Jacob Markstrom. Like 18th overall pick in Kevin Ball. It's a pretty good package for Markstrom. I'd say Markstrom is definitely a step above Merzlikins and Gibson and stuff like that. Only a couple years removed from Vezdanom, but I think there might be a little bit of a bidding war for some of these guys. It's just the price tags, I think, will be.
Goalie trades are super fun too, especially when they don't involve another goalie, because it's like the product on the ice outside of the goaltender is, you look at the Panthers, they just added Seth Jones for a guy that wasn't playing. So I always love the idea of like getting better elsewhere and still having another goalie to put behind the pipes is fine.
Yeah, and the Avalanche mid-season turned over their entire goaltending, so it can be done.
Yeah. Talk about a team with a weird goaltending room, the Detroit Red Wings. Next one on this list.
Segue.
Red Wings break the bank. I'm curious to see what the offseason looks like for them after Dylan Larkin pretty much publicly criticized Steve Yzerman on the lack of moves at the deadline.
Yeah, I mean, your captain going out and saying we need to make moves, especially for someone, players normally aren't exactly the ones saying that because they like to keep the teams close-knit and stuff. Dylan Larkin's been here long enough, almost the entirety of this 9-year playoff drought. He's ready for some moves, and I think there's no seat hotter in any facet of like the NHL front offices than Steve Yzerman's. The Yzerplan is going nowhere. So I think he's finally going to come to terms with, and it's going to be this offseason, probably in the next week or two, it's time to break the bank and make some moves to kind of save this team and save face for himself. One of those things we've talked about before, but I'm still very confident that they can get it done, is bringing in Erik Karlsson. Ooh. I think, like I said, a team will trade for him, and it's going to be a desperate team who wants to win now. No case better, really, than the Red Wings right now, so I could see them shipping off a couple young prospects, bringing in Karlsson. They've got the money for him. And I think that they go after a guy like Nick Ehlers, like Brock Besser, one of these big-name guys who are just big names in this class, given the smaller amount of players that we have in it, to really just bolster either their first or second line, the top six. I think both of those guys is nothing to scoff at. Like, if you're a Red Wings fan, you can't be upset about them bringing in a guy like Nikolai Ehlers, despite how much they're going to pay. But yeah, this just seems like one of those teams that's in prime situation to really just go all out and try and upgrade the best that they can just for next season. Not even look for any further than next year, just next year.
Would you guys consider Detroit a quiet or a loud hockey market?
Somewhere in the middle.
Yeah.
Like Original Six, really good fan base, but it's not like Vancouver, which is like always loud no matter what.
Yeah, because I saw Nikolai Ehlers apparently would prefer like the rumor is that he would prefer a more like calm environment.
Okay.
And that's why I kind of doubt the idea of Toronto. I just doubt that he would want the spotlight of that.
I think Detroit's.
I think he'd be
calm.
Yeah,
I think
it's
he'd
fine.
work in Detroit. I think they are just so in desperate need of a center behind Larkin, and obviously Tarasenko and Kane are going to age out here soon for Detroit, so Ehlers would kind of fill in really nicely in that top six. But Detroit's in a really weird spot because I look at their pipeline and I'm like, okay, they got Sandin Palinka coming. They're kind of missing that just like bona fide stud.
Sure.
Yeah, like Danielson and Nygaard and a couple other guys. They're all sort of like, promising two-way guys, but you don't see, your next superstar in the pipeline. So it's a lot of what they have kind of currently.
Maybe they should be going after that 4th overall pick from Utah.
Maybe.
Alongside, I mean,
I like
this team like basically they never won the lottery in all those years they stunk, and that's one thing I think you have to kind of remember that for Yzerman is that like he never got that lottery bounce. He didn't use his picks very wisely at the same time, but they got a bunch of guys they could maybe offer up alongside a 13 for number 4.
He hit on Mo Sider, and he's basically probably been victory lapping that ever since.
Yes, that has been there. Everyone was like, what? And then, it's worked out so far. But I could see Karlsson being a really good fit in Detroit.
Yeah.
Though it seems like every team that's traded for Karlsson has regretted it. So I wonder at what point is it just buyer beware right there. So next one on here, these two guys, story of the NHL playoffs, Brad Marchand and Sam Bennett. And I think both are going to re-sign in Florida. Sam Bennett's been very vocal.
Well, I was going to say, we got a lot of video evidence of them, their
Bennett.
intentions here.
But I think both stay, and I think both take discounts to stay. And I don't know exactly how they're going to make all the money work. I think it's probably going to come as a consequence to Aaron Ekblad, who they'll have to replace. But knowing Florida, they'll replace him with some guy for $900K that ends up being unbelievable and gets an 8x4 3 years later that turns into the best contract in the league. But I, at this point, think that both Bennett and Marchand will stay. I think just why would you want to leave, right? Like, this is a team that has a legitimate chance, in my opinion, to three-peat. And we haven't seen a team three-peat since what, John? Islanders?
Must have been.
Must have
in
been.
the 80s?
Yeah.
I can't remember another.
And I think they're good enough to do it. And, I mean, they're having a good time. I saw Kachuk was saying that, like, they just are treated really well in Florida. Like, they're not overly, like attacked during the season, but everyone gets excited during the playoffs and stuff. So I think they both stay. What do you guys think?
I mean, you live in Florida, no state tax, and you're on the best team in hockey. It's pretty good 3 things to want to come back to. So I think Bennett for sure. And you've seen how much fun Marchand's been having. He's been having so much fun that he's actually now starting to tease, it seems like, the idea of the Leafs. And I feel like he's just doing that because of how happy he is. I think he's trolling.
Do you see that post on Instagram?
No.
What did he comment on it? It was
he's like,
the people want to see it or something like that. Something about like Brad Marchand come to Toronto and he commented on it like the people want to see it or something.
I think there's no merit to that. I think he's just in such a good mood that he's like, yeah, you know what? I've been taking this out on all the teams that trade away their players to my team. Now I'm gonna just go attack the Leafs. I'm gonna have some fun all over the place. So I think for both the team's sake and the players' sake, it makes too much sense for them to come back.
I feel like the probability of Bennett re-signing in Florida is like 95% maybe. Marchand, I'd bring it down to like 70. Like I think there's still a chance he gets a good night's rest and thinks about, okay, like this is my last contract to really cash in. I've been underpaid my whole career. Let's see what's out there. That doesn't mean he's gonna walk away from the Panthers, but I think it would be in his best interest as he winds down his career here to look elsewhere. He's got 2 cups. Sure, yeah, the Panthers is a tremendous fit, but like he could also, like, just to circle back on the Leafs, he could see that as a challenge. Hey, I'm going to change the culture. Hey, I'm going to play with Matthews, whatever the case may be.
Yeah, I think I could also see him getting maybe being like, okay, I'll take a little bit less money, but give me 7 years, and I'll like LTIR the last like 3 or 4 of them. Because I don't mean why. That's what the Leafs are going to do with Tavares, and that's what Dallas probably just did with Duchesne, and it's just smart business at the end of the day. But I just think like he might take a little bit more time. I think they'll work on Bennett first, but Marchand might be like, I'll wait till like second week of July until like I can really like, okay, I'm back at home in Boston with my family and we can actually talk. Okay, like what do we want to do here? Where do we want to live? Does Florida sound good to us or whatever? But
yeah, I mean, like this team, like they seem very committed to each other. Like there's no denying that. Like I can't really recall a group winning the cup and it's seeming so like genuine, the love for each other and just the sort of run it back feeling around it. So it would by no means be surprising if both of them re-sign, but I feel like Marchand's like, more of a 50-50. Well, I guess I said 70%, but 70-30 at this point.
There just is the chance that he wants to cash in on his payday, and he's deservingly so. But I mean, if he signs a long-term deal, he's still going to get $30 million, and I think he'd be probably okay with that as well. Last one on this list. This is the guy who probably, when he does sign his next contract, it will be for the highest AAV in the league, no matter what. Yep. That's Connor McDavid. I believe that he will enter camp without an extension. Your guys' thoughts?
Yeah, I think that there's a solid chance that this can happen. Should Oilers fans be paranoid if that's the case? Maybe a little bit. I think it might not speak to McDavid and where he's at as much as it does with his agent or just the nature of the team. Leon Draisaitl took his contract extension all the way till the 3rd of September when he signed it. McDavid has the same agent as Austin Matthews, who waited until the 23rd of August to get that deal across the table. So if this happens, don't think that maybe it's because Connor McDavid wants out, but he could have sounded a lot more confident, I think, in that season exiting press conference of being like, yeah, I want to run it back, and I don't blame him. You losing the cup twice, you're going to start to wonder, how are we going to get this done? So I think this is going to take a while. Edmonton has some things to figure out as well, obviously with Evan Bouchard having a big payday coming up, so they're really going to need to iron out their money situation. But I think in a perfect world, in a spot where he really wants to come back and the team, obviously the Oilers are going to want to bring him back, they try and get this done as soon as possible, and I just don't think that's going to be the case. I think when you're signing the best player in the league by a long shot, it's going to take some time, and they really need all the time they can get to get this right.
I think it's fair to say his heart's in Edmonton. Like, the amount of, years he's invested there, he's seen the team build up. He seems like a guy that wouldn't just chase money for the sake of money. He doesn't need to, if we're being honest, because he's going to get paid plenty when he's in Edmonton again anyways. And, his wife has opened up a bunch of businesses in Edmonton. She's really entrenched in the community. He's best friends with Leon Draisaitl. I don't think that Draisaitl signs last year without at least a wink, wink, nudge, nudge from McDavid.
Like you're going to stay, right?
Like unofficial. Yeah. Like obviously, like, it would be unfair, like say, like, in any relationship to be like, hey man, like if I sign, you're signing, right? Like that wouldn't be really fair. But I'm sure they had a discussion,
Yeah.
and I'm sure Connor said, yeah, I'm pretty sure I'm going to resign. So like all the sort of factors are moving towards him re-signing and not testing free agency. But I think it's totally fair for him to sit there and go, yeah, Stan Bowman, show me what you got on July 1, and then I'll reassess. Like he's kind of using his leverage in some way, shape, or form there. And I don't think it's caused for panic if he shows up at training camp without a contract. He's still got that whole year, that whole season to play out. But
I just he will never walk for free from there.
No.
Like I think he is probably more likely to sign a shorter term deal.
Sure.
I don't think he's signing for 8 years. I think it just doesn't make sense with like
The
way
rising cap.
the rising cap and stuff, and also just where the Oilers are, like a really old team. And
Yep.
people are saying like if he goes somewhere else, like is he gonna have a better shot to win? And I'm like, well, at the end of the day, if you plug McDavid onto 31 other teams in the league, probably
their ceiling just goes through the roof.
probably over 20 of them are like serious cup contenders immediately.
Yes.
There's probably only a collection of 5 or 6 teams that couldn't make it to a Stanley Cup final without Connor McDavid.
But
But
Draisaitl is a factor where
100%.
Like it's like there's only if you went to Colorado, obviously that'd be an improvement because you've got McKinnon and Makar. You go to Toronto, okay, you've got Matthews. You go to Tampa, that's Kucherov. But like the list runs,
there's
is
other,
pretty short.
But there's other things you can say too. Is he goes to New York, he gets Shesterkin. He
Right?
goes
Yeah,
like
better goalie.
he's had this gong show in net behind him his entire career, and I mean that's why I'm thinking he might wait all summer too, because he's like Stan JJ, like go get me a goalie. Like I love Stuart Skinner, he's a great dude,
Yep.
cool guy. Same with Calvin, but like I need somebody that like when I lose the puck, my heart doesn't sink. Because that's what happens every time there's an odd man rush in Edmonton.
Mhm.
That's why McDavid's a -4 in the Stanley Cup final, like Game 7 or Game 6 or whatever, because like he doesn't have that safeguard behind him. And I think he will stay in Edmonton. I think it'll probably be a shorter term deal, but I think he's gonna wait because I think it's enough is enough in Edmonton. They need to go get a goalie.
Well, and the timing is interesting here, where he's getting close to 30. He's lost twice in the final. Like he's thinking he doesn't care about the hardware anymore. He's done enough.
No.
He's going to probably get up to 2,000 points. That's the only one other than Gretzky to do that. Like individually, he's fine, but it's like the guy hasn't won a cup yet. I mean, that really matters for your legacy personally. Lifting that cup. So, yeah, shorter term probably, but even just generally speaking, he's probably sitting there going, like, I don't need to this isn't a charity here where I have to come back.
This I was gonna say this is a legacy altering next contract really for him. A guy like this should win it in Edmonton. I think that's on his mind. He's like, I have to get it
Yes.
done here. But at what age does he get to the point where he's like, I need to win a cup no matter what. I don't care if I'm leaving.
Well, Gretzky was what, like 31 when he left Edmonton or something like that, and I
Yeah.
mean he never got. I mean I think they won the cup like the next year or something like that. Or
Yeah,
2
they
years
did. They did with Messier, yeah.
And I mean, hey, like Edmonton could go and they could do something like that without McDavid. I mean, especially if they're trade him, get a ton of assets, but I don't think they're going to trade him. I think my guess is he signs a 2 to 4 year deal and runs that out and then sees where the team's at in a couple
Yeah.
seasons and is like, okay, we won a cup now, but I can definitely tell that our team is going to fall off here. Like 43-year-old Corey Perry's not going to get it done this season. So
43-year-old.
maybe
Still there.
let's ship me off and let me try something new here. I could see happening, but he could also be an Edmonton for lifer. So who knows? I think it's going to be a crazy offseason to watch. It's going to be a crazy week to watch. I think a lot is going to come in this week leading up to the draft, and we have a couple things here that probably fall in line with those. And there's so many other ideas I had for bold predictions here, and maybe some other big names that could be on the market or might not be. But we're just gonna have to watch this down the stretch. We're gonna have one more episode here of Top Shelf this season. Next week, following a couple days after free agency, I think, just so we can break all that down and see how many of these things either happened or haven't happened yet. How many are rumored to happen? I think we should actually maybe do a little checklist on all our
Yeah,
predictions.
maybe McDavid will sign July 1, and we'll just this whole conversation.
McDavid
will be
8/16 on July 1. It's
In,
just
like,
like yeah, okay. And Utah holds the 4th pick, and Peterka goes to whatever, I don't know. But
Toronto.
yeah, Toronto. That would
Yeah.
not be electric, right? But that's just the way it goes. It's been a lot of fun, though, just chatting through this offseason. A lot of fun storylines to watch. I think it's one of the more question mark off seasons in a long
Definitely.
time. But that's all the time we do have for Top Shelf today. For Levi Smith, John Matisz, and myself, Aidan Thakkar, we will see you next time.